This is Melissa Masiha with 10 News, and you're listening to This Filipino American Life.
My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Hello, welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. My name is Joe Bernardo, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Ryan Carpio,
Elaine Delalis,
and
Mike.
Producer Mike.
boom, 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 boom.
You know, you could just like affect the sound effect without like the actual air horn.
You know, I just like to push the button.
You know, like a
Pew, 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 pew.
or something.
It's funny.
Yeah.
and we are here broadcasting on the campus of University of San Diego.
San Diego.
Yes.
Nice announcer voice, Ryan.
Hey, thanks.
Home to one of the largest Filipino American populations in the United States. I believe the fourth, either the third or fourth largest. I believe fourth.
What are the predecessors to that then?
LA's number one, the Bay's number two, New York is number three.
Even more than like Honolulu?
Honolulu, I think, is 5.
Oh, okay.
No, they're all Hawaiian over there.
Let us not get into those semantics.
Write to us if you don't believe that. Mike.
So I heard we have a voicemail, Joe.
Yes, we have a voicemail. Here it is.
Hi, TFAL crew. This is Steve from Boston. I started listening to your podcast about a month ago. You all do a great job of covering a number of Filipino American topics that I don't think are being covered in any other podcast that I know of. I find that they're both informative and a lot of fun to listen to. I'm catching up on the backlog of episodes I missed before starting to listen and hoping to be caught up soon. In the meantime, happy to be a new Patreon sponsor for the podcast. Keep up the great work. Maybe someday there'll be a new Lakers-Celtics NBA Finals rematch podcast in the near future. Bye.
That's a wholesome voicemail. I like that.
I take
And he's
back
a
all the
Patreon.
things I said about Boston.
And he's a Patreon.
Yes,
That's
thank you so
awesome.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being a Patreon, even if you're from Boston.
And we reach Boston. That's good. Yeah, that's good.
I love all the fans from Boston. It is just my purple and gold soul is not allowed to enjoy anything from that city.
Nah, don't listen to Elaine. It's fine.
That, and we're still heartbroken that we lost. The Dodgers lost again in the World Series to Boston.
I already forgot that
I
until you
forgot it,
reminded
yeah.
me.
Thanks. sorry.
Thanks for the words.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. So, guys, what are your experiences with San Diego?
What do you mean?
What? I didn't get these questions ahead of time.
Hold on 1 second. What do you mean by experiences?
How often did you ever come down here?
I came here for retreats.
Retreats.
Yeah.
I came here multiple times a year, almost like my entire youth.
Once in a blue moon. Yeah, like maybe like once to like a SeaWorld trip. But maybe later in life, like some of my friends are here, so it's a nice.
I didn't know we were going to go like full on history.
Yeah.
I took the train when I was 3 years old with my parents.
Well, I didn't
and
know
we
you were gonna
went
do
to
history.
San Diego, SeaWorld, and the zoo. And my parents rented a car in 1983. They rented a car.
Wow.
While you were all this as a 3-year-old?
Yeah. No, I just saw it in pictures and my parents told me these stories. I do not remember any of it, but yes.
I have relatives in National City. And I remember coming down here, and my relatives always wanted to take us fishing. So fishing is such a big thing here in San
Is it?
Diego.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah.
I never did
We'll
that
believe
here.
you then.
Yeah.
If you say so.
It is.
I don't know. I don't know anything about San Diego. Not much.
Oh, really?
I have a few friends that, you know. Yeah.
To get us acquainted to the Filipino American life in San Diego, we have a guest, Mr. Alan Segi.
Hi, guys.
What's up, Alan?
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
And welcome to USD.
Yes, and thank you for hosting us here in USD.
I'm late.
Alan is a professor here at the Political Science Department here at USD. I actually knew him back in our days in Santa Barbara. He
Yeah.
was one of my first TAs.
Yeah.
So what did you give Joe? Did he pass?
Oh, he did pass. I think I gave him a B.
Oh, yay.
For Bernardo.
For Bernardo.
For Bernardo.
It's very good.
Well done.
B as in bird.
That's good.
Grown.
So you are born and raised here?
Born and raised in San Diego, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
What part of San Diego?
South Bay specifically, so South San Diego, Chula Vista area. Went to Chula Vista High School class of 92, and then, went on to other things.
Nice. How did your parents come to San Diego?
Well, as far as my parents go, my dad first came back in the 1960s, like in the early 60s, when a lot of the Filipinos back then were farm workers. And he came in because my grandfather, my dad's dad, was one of the early manongs, settled out in the Imperial County area and kind of like the El Centro area. And so, kind of established himself there. And then by around the early 60s, my dad had an opportunity to immigrate to the United States, petitioned by my grandfather, and then also worked as one of the farm workers. Oh. And while my dad was, keeping residence here, my mom and my older siblings, I'm the youngest of four, they all lived in the Philippines. So it was one of those things where mom and my siblings lived in kind of like in the Metro Manila area. And then dad worked, in Imperial County, worked in the farms, worked in the packing houses, sent money back home to the Philippines. And then eventually by 1972, just before martial law, my dad was able to bring my mother and my siblings to the United States. Yeah.
So you're kind of a rare breed here in San Diego.
I am.
Or
yes.
you don't have a military connection?
Yes.
Direct military.
Direct, well, yes, but no, Joe, because the thing is my parents obviously were not involved in the military. Uncles and, were not involved. But as far as my siblings go, eventually my two older brothers, because I am the youngest of four, two brothers and a sister, I did have one brother who served in the Navy for 8 years and one brother who served in the Army for 4.
Oh.
So growing up here, did that influence them to go into the military?
A lot of it is because even though, again, like my dad wasn't in the military, my uncle, my dad's brother wasn't in the military, certainly they had a lot of friends, that were. So, growing up in, middle school, high school, so they all came pretty much like in the adolescent years. Yeah. So late elementary school, middle school years, that's when they all, were here. And what happened was with my brothers, a lot of their friends, Filipino friends, in the neighborhood, they were, children of, Navy, active duty, some retired. And so eventually, a lot of them got into the idea of, hey, maybe, serving in the military would be a pretty cool thing.
Did you ever think about it? Or did they ever kind of show you maybe a pressure or nothing like that?
Pressure, no. Did I think about it? No, because I've always been a kind of a free spirit.
Yeah.
And not to say that, free spirits don't have a place in the military, but I just was one of those things where I just wasn't one to really to take, orders and commands from someone to begin with. And so the way that I just kind of imagined the military is, I don't know if that's going to necessarily fit me being a free spirit and all.
On the drive down here, we're actually talking about whether or not, Joe and I were talking about whether or not we thought about it. And I was like, it's never really been my thing either. So I appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, the military is such a big presence here in San Diego. And that's one of San Diego's identities is a military town. I mean, how would you describe San Diego? Is it a sleepy town? Is it like a bunch of suburbs pushed together?
Is it LA South? Yes.
Is it a big city?
Thank you for taking the charters. Yes.
No, I don't want them.
Joe wants to give it back.
We give it back. I mean, is it a big city not ready to be a metropolis? I mean, I just feel like it's a huge city. It's like
it is.
It's the I think top 10.
Yeah, I think it's around eighth.
Eighth,
We got
largest population
of all the cities in the U.S. You're looking at 1.3, 1.4 million people. Yes.
Yeah, but yet it doesn't have this kind of metropolis vibe to it.
Right.
Yeah. How would you describe it?
Well, it's a place where a lot of people come to retire and settle down. It's a place where certainly the military's had the presence. I mean, certainly with Filipinos, going back to the 70s, especially a lot of the, the communities, a lot of the Filipino American communities. It was one of those places where people found San Diego as a result of their military connections. And then once they, finished their service, once they retired, it's like, holy smokes, this is wonderful. Why would I go anywhere else? And so they ended up, staying. So, for a lot of people, it's kind of like, you have kind of like that retirement vibe or that settling down vibe. And so that's one of the things, compared to a lot of other cities, like Los Angeles or New York, where it's kind of a go situation where for many people, the reason why San Diego is so attractive is because of the relaxed environment. Mm-hmm. That if you want a place to settle down, if you want a place to, raise a family, when you get into your autumn years and into your winter years, the weather's, fantastic, provided that you can actually pay the sunshine tax here. But yeah, I mean, certainly, you have that vibe. Mm-hmm. And then, I think that, also, you have it's one of those cities with a lot of transplants. And obviously, Los Angeles, is, the same way too. But I think, for a lot of people, the idea of, growing up somewhere in, another part of the country, another part of the world, and then finding this place and then realizing, all the amenities and all the beauty, here that, if you could somehow, make it possible to, find a way to settle down here, then you settle down here. Yeah.
And speaking of amenities, you also have proximity. You also have proximity to a lot of casinos.
Yes,
and I know you are an avid poker player.
I am an avid poker. I wouldn't say an avid. I enjoy poker. It is a hobby. Yes. I still love my academics, but yes, when
wait.
Yes.
This school is very close to Valley View Casino.
Yes. Yeah, there's half a dozen casinos, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Oh.
This is going to be interesting.
Yes.
Ryan is a poker player in our little crew here.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And Elaine is the one who likes slot machines.
And I think we all like the buffet.
We do love the buffets, yes.
And then you bring your father to the
Bring my father. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, my mother passed about 10 years ago. God rest her soul. But I've been blessed to have an opportunity to be with my father, to spend a lot of time with my father. And that's one of the things that, my father and I do as a bonding experience is, even, earlier on, we'd go to the casino and stuff. And as I got a little bit older and specifically had more time with him, it was just one of those things where, bringing him to the casino, playing poker with him, talking poker with him. It was just one of those things among others that, enabled me to really bond with him, especially, as he's gotten older. He's 88 years old. He's going to be 89 later this month. To be able to have the privilege to still spend a lot of time with him and be there for him and find something like, the neighborhood casino, as an opportunity to, awesome. To build a few more memories. It's great.
That's cool. My mom sometimes tries to trick me into taking her to the casino.
Trick? Is it really a trick?
So this is what she says. She goes, "Oh, remember when you promised me you'll take me to the casino?" I'm like, when did I? And I'm not very good. My memory is kind of bad. And I go, did I do that? And then next thing you know, I'm hooked. She goes, "Oh, I'm going to get ready." I'm like, whoa, we're going. We're going now. We're going now. And so, I totally get it. My mom loves the games. And actually, that's how I learned how to play cards. So kudos to you and your dad.
Thank you.
What casino do you usually go to?
Okay. Here in San Diego County, I go to Sequan. Dad and I will Sequan. Yeah, Sequan.
Sequan.
Yeah.
See, Kwan.
How many Filipinos make that joke when you walk into that casino?
You'd be surprised how many there are. Yes, but it gets old fast.
It's new to Joe.
Yes. Yeah. So Sequan, Barona are here in San Diego County.
Barona, I haven't heard that in years.
Yes. As far as buffets go, Primo, Primo buffet, and then also Dad and I will make the trek like on weekends up to Pachanga, which is pretty much kind of like on the edge of San Diego County, Riverside County. But it's a nicer casino. The drive is pretty straight, and I like the drive like on weekends because you don't have to deal with all that ridiculous traffic. It's actually a pretty beautiful drive. Yeah.
Pachanga is one that most of my college friends went to when they got their loan deferment.
Oh, that's one of the first casinos that I ever played at because it used to be a giant tent and it's 18 and over.
18 and over.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't have 18 over no more, huh?
Not anymore.
They're moving it out. Yeah.
Because they can all have slot machines now.
Right.
We voted on that proposition. I voted yes.
Plus, a lot of the casinos want to add alcohol just to add to their revenue. So,
Yeah. Oh, really quick, just to learn a little bit more about you in the university. What do you teach?
I teach political science.
Yeah.
So I'm actually sort of multitasking. So, So I teach, not only here, I also teach at the community colleges here in San Diego.
Cool.
So,
nice.
So basically, specifically Miramar College and Mesa College, which Mesa is actually down the street. So pretty much my workload is I teach 5 or 6 classes a semester, two or three classes here, and then 3 classes a semester at the community colleges, some combination, at Miramar and Mesa.
That is a lot. Do you have TAs? I hope
Nope.
you have.
No.
Jesus.
Yeah, small schools, we don't. Well, the community colleges don't. And then, part of the reason why so many of our students here at USD, come here is because they want the intimacy with their professors.
Oh.
So the idea of 25, 30 students in a class at a university
And
environment.
you have 5 or 6 of them?
Yes.
Oh, geez. That's
And
a
then-
lot of grading.
It's a lot of grading, and speaking of which, before I was had the pleasure to join you guys. I'm putting together their midterm exam, which is going to be happening on Monday.
Oh man.
So what's
that
the answer?
laughter.
It's the laughter. It's painful, but I love the pain. So I'm being kind of like masochistic.
What's the question? I mean, this is going to
No.
come out after, so.
Yeah.
So we have a huge lineup of guests that we're going to interview coming up.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you again, Alan, for hosting us here at beautiful University of San Diego. Yeah. Our first guest to welcome us to San Diego is Councilmember Chris Cate. What?
Yay.
How you guys doing?
Good.
I was ready. I was ready
love
that time.
Chris Cate is a city council member for the city of San Diego. He represents City Council District 6. And that represents Claremont Mesa, Kearney Mesa, Mira Mesa. Lots of tables here. Lots of tables. North Claremont and Rancho Penasquitos.
Mesa.
And now he's heard all the dad jokes.
Not yet. There's gonna be more.
There's so many more.
Can't wait.
Don't limit us, Elaine.
As a new dad, I'm very anxious to hear the news dad. jokes.
Yeah. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you very much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you have a 3-month-old. correct?
3-month-old girl. Yes.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Madison Rose.
Nice.
Nice.
Madison Rose Cate.
So you've been awake for like 80 hours.
Pretty much. That's like my third,
How are you even
venti.
That's
yeah.
why the coffee is so long.
Yeah, he has a venti cup in front of him. It's not clear.
He's like, what weekend? What?
Nope.
And also, congratulations on recently getting reelected.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
The recent election. How was that?
It was good. It was good. We've worked hard to make sure that we were going to have a very easy election, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I will say though, don't ever have a kid during an election because that makes it some challenges in there. But we have a great staff and great district, and voters definitely love seeing some of the successes that we've had over the past 4 years. So now we're going into our second term of office and our last 4 years on the council.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're putting her to work already?
She did knock on some doors with me.
Okay. Like, did she did she, what is it when you, phone bank?
Phone bank.
Envelopes.
I did have to lick envelopes at one point. I feel like that was the old.
That's old school.
Old
That's old
school.
school. That's old school.
And you also are the first Filipino American city council member of San Diego.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
So the first Asian American to serve on the city council was Tom Hom. That was in 1965.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so it's been a journey, and so that's one of the things when we ran initially in 2014, the redistricting commission redrew all of our council districts, and this is a brand new district, and they had a really big focus on the API community. And when the census came out in 2011 and we were drawing the lines, the API community really came together and wanted to establish an API influence district. And so if you look at the communities that I represent, Mira Mesa, we call it Manila Mesa, Rancho Penasquitos, we have the Convoy district in Kearney Mesa, very heavily API. And so right now our district is about 35% API
Wow.
within the community. It's the largest concentration of Asian Americans, mostly predominantly Filipino Americans in the city.
And they call it Rancho Penasquitos.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. You got
I'm
it.
learning all these things. I only knew Manila Mesa. I did not know this.
Rancho Penasquitos.
Penasquitos,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to talk about like kind of your journey to becoming council member. So you're born and raised in San Diego?
Born and raised.
Where are
yep.
your parents from?
So my dad, so I'm mestizo. So my dad was born in Kawit, Cavite, in the Philippines.
That's where my mom's from.
Yeah, there you go. And so he came to San Diego with my lolo and lola when he was 13, and my mom is Caucasian. She was born in Texas, but they met in Chula Vista here, and so I was born in Chula Vista, and then my parents divorced when I was young, and I lived with my mom growing up, and so we moved all around San Diego County. So we were in mostly North County, San Diego, and graduated from high school in North County, San Diego, but went to school here at University of San Diego, and got my degree here, and just stayed here. I did some time in Washington, D.C., in an internship program through USD, working on Capitol Hill, and just the weather sucks in DC. So I came back to San Diego. And
You're like, no, thank you.
yeah, there's like a week period where in late March, early April, when the cherry blossom bloom, when it's beautiful, it's like 60 degrees, it's gorgeous. But other than that, it's humidity or it's snowing. It just sucks. That's not a thing. Not for a San Diego boy.
Yeah, oh my gosh, San Diego.
Yeah.
So how did you become interested in going to politics?
It really came after 9/11. So after 9/11, I started asking a lot of questions and really got interested in kind of government. And I really grew up in a very apolitical family. We didn't talk politics. We didn't do anything in regards to politics. Really didn't follow it. You know, my dad was a CHP officer. My mom was in the postal service.
Are you sure your mom's not Filipino?
Well, my dad was in the post office as well too. So there's and my Lolo was too, and all that. So yeah, Uncle still is, but no. And so I really wasn't grew up that way. And so when I told them that, hey, I'm going to declare my major, I'm going to be a political science major, they're like, what? You know, my dad wanted to be a cop, my mom wanted to be an engineer, and kind of just, but it was just fascinating to me. And so I just immersed myself into it and love history and just love to read. And I have a knack for just asking certain questions and knowing how to ask questions to get different answers, and fell in love with government, and mostly local government. I think local government is the best because you really get to see the impacts of the decisions that you make, where government in Sacramento or in DC, it's so far away, and it's so hard to really realize the true impacts of the decisions that you're making. Local government's where it's at. So I try to make sure my career is focused around local government.
I wanted to know more about like your, I guess your feelings towards being a Filipino American representative, and if that carries a certain kind of weight of being, you know, being the first, and even the first API in a long time, but to be that Filipino American representative in pretty much a district that represents a lot of Filipinos. How does that feel?
It is. It's. I don't want to say it's challenging, but there is something that is motivating and driving to really be representative of the community. You know, in San Diego, in the Filipino community, we're very quiet. We haven't found our voice yet. We haven't figured out how we can be that block of residents and individuals who command attention from politicians and from the elected officials. That's because we don't often vote. We don't give donations politically. We're not really civically and politically active as much as we should be. And so, you know, for San Diego being the second largest concentration of Fil-Ams in the country, in San Diego and kind of the Southern California, we should be a voting bloc. We should be commanding elected officials' attention and having them seek us out to get our input and our ideas about what is important to us, and that hasn't happened. And so I see it more of a calling to work with some of my colleagues, Fil-Ams in the community, to try to be motivating, to get people engaged. And it's not about even Republican or Democrat or anything like that. You know, it's getting people to register to vote, to volunteer, whatever it takes to really command that respect.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of support from the Filipinos? Or?
It took some time. You know, for me growing up, I didn't grow up on the Filipino side of my family. And so, I had never been back to the Philippines. I don't speak the language.
I've never been either. So it's cool.
Well, I have been now. But up until then, I mean, I did it. So it was almost like I felt I had to prove myself. I had to prove how Filipino I was, and that took some time. But I found a mentor, Tony Elias, who is amazing. He calls himself a born again Filipino, and it just clicked with me because he's now on his journey to really trying to get the second and third gen Fil-Ams to really be engaged, understand their culture.
He runs the Filipino school, right?
He runs the Filipino school, exactly. And he was on the board of Gawa Kalinga, and that's how I went out to the Philippines with him. And a funny story, so I met him probably 5, 6 years ago, and I sat down with lunch with him, and he said, I'm going to the Philippines in 3 weeks. Do you want to go? And I was like, cut to my then girlfriend. I was like, I think I'm going to go to the Philippines. And I ended up going for 3 days out there.
3 days?
3 days, yeah. 3 days. But what's hilarious is that, so I went out there with him, and his parents were out there too. And his dad picked us up, and his dad was asking, oh, who's your parents? Who's your dad? Da-da-da. Tony's dad actually ended up was my dad's supervisor at the post office in Chula Vista. They're from the same town, and actually Tony is like my second or third cousin.
Oh wow!
So you learned that?
I learned that on the trip within an hour of me landing in Manila.
That's the most Filipino,
right? He's my brother. I mean, he's awesome. But working with him and Audie DeCastro, who's our honorary consul general here in San Diego, really trying to get folks involved and be engaged, and how can we all come together to be that block that is politically strong in our community.
So how do you get more Filipinos involved? I mean, when you have a conversation with them that with one family, for example, who's not very politically active, what do you say?
What's a cell?
That's I mean that's I mean that's the $1 million question. And I don't know the answer to that, and that's where we're trying to figure out what's gonna drive. I think you look at some of the first gen Fil-Ams, the older, your aunties and uncles, they're engaged. They're very active, whether that's from the military side or whatever else. They're very active, but it's folks my age, it's millennials, second and third gens who, they'll vote every presidential election. Well, okay, that's great, but there's 3 elections in between that.
Yeah.
What are you doing there? And that's where I don't know what the answer is. And it's going to take folks who have the ability to go on and knock on doors specifically for Fil-Ams and specifically get them out. I mean, for my campaign, I mean, we had folks who only talk to Fil-Ams, and whether that's a language thing or whatever else, knocking on their doors, but really getting to understand and be not only at that, I'm in office now for 4 years. I need to know what your issues are. I mean, I can't solve the problems for you if I don't know what the problems are, and I can't just assume what they are. So I need to get folks to also call our office, email us, let us know what those issues are, what's important to you. And so it's trying to get people to understand that it's a constant. It's not about just going and voting once, but also being engaged in your communities and knowing what's happening on your blocks and what's important to you and communicating that to us.
Like voting is the first step. It's like
absolutely
you voicing your opinion.
Absolutely.
But then to be like actually engaged is to like engage with you as the councilman.
And it's not, I mean, it's not to say too that all Fil-Ams are the same, where there's one issue that's primary focus, but it's general. There's some general things where it's public safety or education, schools, being able to walk to and from school safely, after school programs. All those things are important to our communities. But if I don't know what's happening on the ground, because I have a very big district, 150,000 people live in my district. If I don't know what's happening on the ground, I can't be your advocate.
We were recording this like a week. Has it been a week? A week after the midterm elections. So across the nation, it's been like there is a rise in voting. Did that happen in San Diego as well?
It did. We did have rather large turnout for a midterm election. We're still counting ballots, so our registrar of voters estimates it's about 65 to 68%, which is huge in a midterm election. It's a huge midterm election, which is great. I mean, we want people to be engaged and active and vote. So the more we can do that, the better, and that's what I think a lot of us in our community are focused on is trying to get those folks to be registered.
In your district and in the population that you serve, what do you think the issues that that Filipinos face, or even like your district in general face, that you want to tackle?
Yeah, I think for us in San Diego, and I think this cuts across all demographic groups, is housing. I mean, housing is a huge issue, and just in California in general, but San Diego particularly, especially when you look at the median home price of a home in San Diego is $580,000. That's crazy. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's
my job.
And for folks my age, trying to find a home to live, to be in your family and be in the community you grew up in is challenging. And, again, being a parent now, I'm going to want my child to live here in San Diego. If there are no homes for her to live in, that means that she's going to have to move away. And family is really important for our community. We all want to stick together. We want to take care of our elders and all that. And so we have to be close by. But if we don't have a place to live, we can't do that.
You'll have to leave.
Yeah. And so, and with that, with housing comes jobs and more of the high tech jobs, jobs of the future, what we can do in the life sciences industry, the technology industries, all that. Companies won't come here to San Diego if there are no homes. I joke that, for San Diego and trying to get Amazon's, HQ2, it was never going to happen because there's no housing in San Diego. Yeah. So we have nowhere to put all those employees. So, but how are we going to compete for some of these jobs where folks are spending a lot of time and money to go to school to get their educations? We want them to be here to have jobs, but we also need them to live here to be able to work at those jobs.
Yeah. So, I think the community here made a huge deal that you were the first Filipino council member. You're also kind of in a district that is for Asian Americans, or trying to represent Asian Americans. Did you find any kind of pushback from that, kind of being very ethnic specific?
No, not necessarily. I think because we've been working so hard to get this district. I mean, you go back to the Redistricting Commission in 2001, 2002. I mean, we had an API member of our community on the Redistricting Commission fighting for that district, Asian Influence District. We couldn't get it. And so I think we were so organized and we beat that drum so hard and so frequently during the 2010, 2011 process that people saw it. And if you look at, just go down Convoy. Convoy is just a mix of Asian influence, all the restaurants, karaoke bars, the nightlife down there. It's unbelievable. And we have worked really hard to make that an actual tourist destination. You look at Andrew Zimmerman from Bizarre Foods. He was down at Menya Ultra Ramen in Kearney Mesa a few months back. They just opened a second spot in Mira Mesa. We're bringing a lot of Asian cuisine to this district. Nice. Jen Barbecue just opened up in Mira Mesa. So Orange County guy, Jen. So these are big deals. And so you're starting kind of to see this natural rise in this community. And this the diversity of this community just naturally lift to the top and promote these cultures. And so my job, I feel, is to put a magnifying glass on these areas and make them spots and destinations where people come to San Diego specifically to go to Convoy, to go to our night market, which we're doing now annually here in San Diego. Nice. So, we shut down 2 blocks of Convoy in like August, I think it was, and we had 100,000 people on the ground at our night market. So those are things that we're trying to emulate that we see in LA and in Orange County and everywhere else. We're trying to bring that down here to San Diego.
You got to tell us where the good restaurants are.
Absolutely. No, there's a lot of great folk, and it's all homegrown too. If you look at like Common Theory, which is kind of a gastropub on Convoy, the owners are UCSD grads. They're members of our API community. They opened a great spot that celebrates local beers. The cuisine has kind of that Asian influence as well too. It's awesome. We're so much that's going on in this community.
I wrote that down. I'm like, comment
Or
here.
later.
Yeah. For dinner.
So I know you don't have much time, but I do want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
A lot of Filipinos are very politically diverse. You're a registered Republican. We're more left-leaning. How do we begin to kind of talk to one another, given kind of the current political climate where...
We're Filipinos, Joe. We just swallow. Say yes, man.
I mean,
sir.
you get into arguments, like bar arguments, and then at the end of the day, you're like, fuck you, man. You don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you, Paul.
Wow, that sounds like something recent that happened to you. Jeez.
Joe's letting out his feelings.
Or like Facebook wars or arguments.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean...
How do we have civil discourse?
Yes.
That's something that is
a
always
question
No,
of
it is,
2018.
and I think what's frustrating for me, and I think I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I like to have conversations and differences of opinion. But how I try to carry myself is, you can disagree without being disagreeable, and there's a path to do that, and there's no need to be, at least in my opinion, on both sides, outraged. I mean, at the end of the day, look at where we live. I live in San Diego, live in California. It's sunny every day here. It's beautiful. Why can't we just have around the table here and have a conversation and just say, okay, I respect your opinion. I have a different background. I have a different philosophical view, different upbringing that helped drive my viewpoints. That's okay. And we're going to disagree on this issue, but we're going to work together on the next thing. And for me, if I look at the Filipino community, even though you're all left leaning, I'm a registered Republican. We can all agree that we want more Fil-Ams to vote. We want more Fil-Ams to be civically and politically engaged.
Yes.
I don't come from that and say, I want Fil-Ams to register as Republicans. No, I want them to register to vote. I want them to be civically engaged and politically active. And I want them to fight for their causes and make sure their voices are heard. Now, I may not agree with all those things, but that's okay, because I can guarantee you probably a majority of the time we are going to agree on those issues, because whatever you're advocating for is on behalf of that Fil-Am community, which I am a part of.
Yeah.
So it's just being able to have that conversation and just know that you're not going to agree. And one thing I'd said when I first ran for office, I would knock on doors, and people would ask you, what do you feel about this issue or that issue? And I may not agree, because again, we all have different upbringings. I told them, if you're looking for that candidate that agrees with you 100% of the time, look in the mirror, because that's your perfect candidate. Just no one's going to agree with you 100% of the time. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so just know that and respect someone's difference of opinion, but just know that that person may be with you a majority of the time, or 98% of the time, but that one issue may be a difference to you.
Yeah.
Or encourage them to run.
Or even better. I mean, look, I haven't been shy about this. I have 4 years left, and who is going to run after me in my district, who is API, hopefully Filipino American,
Listen,
who can run.
Yeah.
And that, I'm already starting to think about that, because I don't want us to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
We have a stronghold in this community. The next person needs to be from our community and to run for that. But who is that going to be? Who's going to be that person who's going to step up and start understanding the communities and know folks? And we're not a predominantly, even though we're a Democratic district and we elected a Republican, it's a swing seat in that you can't be one or the other. You really got to be a consensus builder and middle of the road to be able to attract a wide diversity of voters in this district.
Yeah.
So who is that person going to be that can cross those boundaries?
It's your 3-month-old daughter.
Get her ready.
4 years, she'll be 4 and 3 months.
She's going to rule.
She'll be
Exactly.
like, my dad said we have to build consensus.
Yeah, we need more seats at the table.
We need more seats at the
Lots of tables here. Kearney Mesa, Mira Mesa.
She's like, we need more booster seats.
So I know you gotta get going.
Yeah.
But my last question
Yeah.
is, Can you please take the Chargers back?
Oh my God, you're raising it. Oh man. So
Wow, hot button issue.
if you,
Oh, look at the time.
I will say for me primarily too, because I was a big part of that campaign.
Yeah.
And I mean,
You're the voice of reason. You know?
the Chargers were taking political ads against me. I mean, they made it very personal against me. So
Wait,
that's
why did they leave? I don't understand.
that's a long story.
Explain it to me.
It's billionaire problems. How about that?
As you wear your Raiders hat, Joe.
They're doing really well. The Chargers are doing well.
They're actually
But no one
well.
LA cares.
This is
Especially because they got LeBron now.
and the Rams are doing really
Hey,
well.
Rams doing great. Exactly.
But are you still a Chargers fan?
That's a hard one. Man.
I have not been watching them. Let's put it that way. I've
hard,
actually been
man.
watching more of Rams than I have
See?
the Chargers.
I have friends who hate watch the Chargers.
I did that the first go around.
Yeah.
And
Is
that what it's called?
Hate watch.
Yeah.
I
You
hate
root for
watching
the
the
other team?
Lakers since like 1980.
Because we win.
So it's tougher, but it was one of those things where they didn't want to talk. They didn't want to have a conversation. They didn't. I mean, I think their decisions were made well before I got in office, and that campaign started.
Yeah.
Maybe we should give you back the Clippers.
I'll take them. I'll take the Clippers.
Ryan's a big fan, so
I love NBA, so I'm an NBA fan. So
So where can people find you? Are you on social media? Your website?
yeah,
anything
social
like
media, Twitter. It's Chris J. Kate, Cate. Same thing for Facebook. Website is chrisjkate.com, and actually it's Kate if you want to be real Filipino.
right.
It's Kate.
I was saying that. When I was doing research, on YouTube, you were saying Kate. So I was like, okay, Kate.
Yeah.
So, but it's Kate.
It's Kate.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Say
Yep.
Kate.
So
It means itchy. FYI.
And if folks want to reach out, like who are from your district, they should tweet at you.
absolutely tweet, Facebook, message. You know, I'm on social media
Tell
constantly.
him what is going on in your community and what you want him
what
to
you
take
want to
care
get
of.
done. Absolutely.
Invite him to your barbecue.
Oh, please do.
Before you leave, what's your karaoke jam?
Oh my
that you sing at the
gosh.
If you say my way, we're gonna have to kick you out.
So the one that I always go to, and it always brings me out a lot of just really, really good moods, is Regulators.
Nice.
Do you hear that first?
Solid.
You hear that intro? You hear that intro? You know what it's about. Exactly. So Regulator, mount up.
All right, that's legit.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
for welcoming us to San Diego.
Absolutely. Make sure you visit Convoy while you're down here, guys.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We might
Yeah.
have common theory.
Common theory.
Gastropub.
Please do. Please do.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Hey guys,
Hey.
Yo.
have either of you ever been in a long distance relationship?
Actually, I have. Me and Girly started out long distance.
Long distance?
Yeah.
What?
When was that?
That was when we first met.
Oh my
Wow.
Yeah, back in 2000.
Nice.
Wow, Joe. That sounds like a podcast that's out by Palomardo called Long Distance.
Palomardo has a podcast?
Yeah.
What's it called again?
Long Distance.
Long Distance.
I think I heard that one.
Let
Yes.
me tell you about it. Long Distance is a collection of Filipino audio stories set a long way from home. Sort of like how you were a long way from Girly.
Aw.
Yeah.
Do you miss those days?
Not really.
Okay, good.
But yeah, the podcast is amazing. The first 2 episodes are about Stockton's Little Manila, and you should really check it out.
Yes. Long Distance is an independent narrative podcast about life in the Filipino diaspora.
Like us.
Check it out.
And we're back.
We are. That was a good break.
It was a good break.
It's a whirlwind.
It was a good TFAL Patreon ad, Kofi. Buy our shirts.
Got to go to the bathroom.
Yes. Oh, that deserved a horn, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
I surprised myself, and I think I surprised our guest.
Who's our guest?
Who's our guest? Could you
Hi.
please introduce yourself?
My name is Melissa Masiha. I live here in San Diego.
Yeah.
Went to college with Elaine a long
did.
time ago.
Time ago.
Yeah,
There you
and
go.
I know, and I work for the ABC station here. in town.
Cool.
Channel 10.
Channel 10, yeah. That is a channel.
And she's a weekend anchor, and we're recording on a weekend, so she's been up since 2 in the morning.
Oh my goodness! Thank you for being here.
Coffee.
You want some double espresso shots?
I think I've had too much already.
Thank you for being here, and thank you. Yes, so we met in college. Mike went to Irvine too. Did you know Mike there? No, he didn't do Cabo things.
I didn't do Cabo. I didn't hang out with Filipinos other than Elaine.
See, it was a Cabo connection back then.
Oh, so in college, you were a what major again?
I did political science and psychology.
And then you were also on Cabo Modern?
Yeah.
What's Cabo Modern?
What's Cabo Modern?
It's a dance troupe.
What?
Yeah.
I knew that. I just wanted to make sure that our viewers, our listeners, or your viewers, know what Cabo Modern is. A dance?
Yeah, it's funny because every now and then dancing will come up, and somehow that conversation comes up, and then I said, that's a long time ago. I can't. The only movement of my arms I do now is when I pick up my kids. It was fun. It was fun.
Korean and Vietnamese Association. Because apparently that's what it was in America's Best Dance Crew.
Is that what happened? Like,
yeah, there was like no
Oh,
Filipinos.
we're gonna get
on
into
Cabo
that
Modern.
now. There's a whole. We had.
I just wanted to mention it. That's all.
But Ja.
It was so fun.
It was
Ja.
fun. And Ja was my resident, and she was one of the dancers on that
She
crew.
was my
so I
sorority
very,
sister.
Very happy to see her. So.
I know. And it was great to just kind of see them on the national stage,
Yes.
even international stage.
Yes.
So that was fun. So yeah, I did that, but I was not in the front row. I was way in the back row.
It's okay. I was way in the back row of my Muslim suite and whatever other dance suite I did in PCN.
Yeah, but no, that was fun. So I did that. I did a lot of dancing. Sometimes I felt like I danced more than I went to class.
I mean, that's life.
But hey, I made it. And I also wrote for the newspaper, the New University. So that I think kind of helped me get to where I am now.
Yeah. So that was my question. How did the dance and college experience lead to your career now in broadcast journalism?
It's funny because UC Irvine, where I went to college, played a huge role. So I've always liked to write. I wrote for the campus newspaper, the New U. And one day there was actually a TV reporter from one of the LA stations on our campus doing a story about, I can't remember what it was, but a friend of mine knew, maybe I was interested or thought about, I wonder how TV news is, because I always wrote for print news. So he got her information. Things worked out, and then I became her intern. And she's one of my mentors still. I entered under her. Her name's Vicky Vargas. She works for
Vicky Vargas.
Yeah, Vicky is. I actually just saw her on election night. So because she was down here covering the GOP, which was where I was that night. So I interned under Vicky way back when, and she's been great. I've been able to reach out to her if I had any questions, and that's kind of how it all started. I did a lot of internships. Back then, they were all unpaid internships, but I did a lot of that, got a lot of good experience. And then you typically, it's a little different now. The media industry has changed, but back then you would move to a teeny tiny city, small market. So I moved to work in El Centro, California, which is just, if you take the I-8 East and then keep going until you kind of don't see anything anymore, that's where it is, right by the Arizona border. So I worked in El Centro, Yuma, Arizona, was there for a few years, moved up to the Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo area, was there for a few years. Then I moved down to Orange County, where I did some of my video work for a station up in LA, but I worked mostly out of Orange County. And then I moved down here in 2010. 2010. So I've been here in San Diego since then.
And it's always been in front of the camera or a little bit of both? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I think just in today's age, the journalist now kind of has to know how to do a little bit of everything, which is, I have such a hybrid position now. So I work weekend mornings where actually I do weather. I do some breaking news. I'll fill in on the anchor desk. During the week, I do a lot of investigation. So I work on a lot of consumer type stories. So maybe people who contact us say, this company ripped us off, or someone has a problem with a business. I do a lot of that. And then I also can film my own stuff. They call them multimedia journalist. So if I have to shoot my own video, I'm able to do that. And then we edit. and then we put stuff online, and then you got to do the social media and all of that stuff. So it's a busy day, but it's not boring for sure.
I have to do all that stuff.
Speaking of social media, just real quick, I've noticed like there's a lot of like broadcast journalists that like they say, hey, follow me on Twitter and stuff. Do you think that's become? I mean, clearly it's become kind of like a more instant news. Is it almost imperative that you have a social media account? Is it?
I think so. It's kind of ingrained, at least in our station, that's almost just part of what you do. So, you have a story that's going to air at 6 o'clock, and just with the changing way people take in news, a lot of people, sometimes you don't sit down at 6 o'clock anymore with your family. Well, then that's why you have the web story, and then maybe you tweet something about that, or you work with your promotions department to post a different video on Facebook. So if we have a special story that we work on our investigative unit for a while, it's a whole plan. It's a whole plan with the promotions department, and then we work with them on what we're going to create for the promo. And then if it needs to go through our lawyer, then we got to work with that. So I definitely think nowadays you have to do that kind of stuff.
Wow. Are you originally from San Diego?
No, I'm born in Long Beach and then raised in Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've always loved San Diego. It's beautiful here.
Does San Diego feel like home now?
It does, yeah. My husband's from here, so he's one of the 5 people that's from here. I feel like everyone in San Diego is from somewhere else, but I have family here, and it does feel like home. I've been here now for 8 years. It's the longest place ever since I started my career that I've lived in one spot.
So you are a reporter for TV network in San Diego.
Yeah, it's a local ABC. So the local reporter.
How's Ron Burgundy?
He's good. He's good. Comes by to hang out and visit every now and then.
He was setting
You
that
were
up.
waiting
He's
for
like,
that one.
I know where this is going.
If I had a penny for every Anchorman joke.
Do you get a lot of that?
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really liked the first Anchorman. It is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I didn't see the second one, but
The first one was the best one. For
I'm going to
sure.
pretend that one doesn't exist.
The first one was good. I enjoyed it.
yeah.
I wanted to ask a question about just kind of like your upbringing and being a Filipino American. When you got into this, was your family like super excited that you were like on television or anything like that? Was it some sort of excitement?
Yeah, I mean, I hope they're proud of me. But I also think it's maybe not the traditional job that normally maybe your parents that moved from the Philippines that would see you in.
Doctor, lawyer, engineer, nurse.
Yeah, one of those. I know one of those, but which are all great jobs. I know when I started college, I didn't think I was going to go into this field. I thought I was going to do something in the medical field, maybe not be a doctor. And then I realized I was not good at all at science. I was really, really bad.
You're like, OChem, no thanks.
I took OChem, and I don't know why I took OChem. I didn't do
took it twice.
well.
I liked it so much.
I actually had to do that too. So then I realized, I'm not that good at it, but I always liked to write. And so when I finally decided I was going to go into this career, I think it was, to be honest, I think it was probably a little scary for my parents, because it's not the most stable career. You're moving, you're on contracts. A lot of it's sometimes subjective depending on who they hire. And your first market, when I moved, it's really not in a very populated area, and you don't make a lot of money at all. So I think they were maybe a little nervous, but my parents are great. They let me do what I wanted to do, and here I am. How many years later is it? Like 14 or so years later, I'm still doing it.
Doing
So-
this since she was
Yeah.
she was a teenager.
Yes. So knock on wood. Luckily, I've been able to be employed, so I'm happy about that.
So San Diego has a huge Filipino population.
Yeah.
What are some of the stories that about the Filipino community that you have covered in the past?
I've done good stories, and I've done not so good stories. I think one of the things I do like to do is get involved when I can. I try to MC different events when they ask me to. I know, like recently, the one I really enjoyed was I emceed the Congressional Gold Medal for World War II veterans. And so that was the first time I've seen that and been a part of it. So that just happened, I think, within the past month. So there were living World War II veterans, that helped our country. And some of them, obviously many have passed and they're next of kin. So there was a whole ceremony dedicated to them. And because I'm able to edit and do some of that stuff as well, we had a photographer. I said, we need to come and, shoot some video because I really want to put a story together on this. So he was able to come shoot some video. I was able to edit it and at least get the word out there that, there are these veterans that weren't recognized. And I think for me, like those kinds of stories, especially highlighting the Filipino community, I really do enjoy doing that. One that was more difficult was a couple years ago. We had a Filipino police officer who was killed in the line of duty here. So that was the last line of duty death here in San Diego.
That was a few months ago, right?
No, this one was a couple years ago.
Okay,
yeah, his name was Jonathan de Guzman. So
Sounds familiar.
yeah, so I think it's crazy how fast time flies. But I was able to interview his wife Jane. And that one was really hard to do. We were both crying, but I think it's also important to show those stories and show the sacrifices that families make. So that one sticks out in my mind because that one also took. It's hard sometimes to get people to talk in front of the camera. Some people like it, use it as a form of therapy almost, I think, and some people don't want to be in front of the camera. So it's just, you take each thing by case basis. So those are the two that kind of stick out in my mind recently.
You mentioned Vicky Vargas being the person that was like your mentor. So you have been in this career for 14 years. So do you find yourself being on that side of the mentor-mentee relationship? Like, are you a mentor now to up-and-coming journalists?
I try to. I think I have. I know some, again, it's a changing career. I know some of the people I used to talk to have gotten out of the business, maybe tried to find something else. But I was very involved in the Asian American Journalists Association. So
they have a chapter here in San Diego?
They do have a chapter here in San Diego, yeah. And it's on a national level. So that actually, too, helped me grow my career. And, you see some of the younger people from getting out of college, just trying to get the best advice possible. Yeah. So usually if someone tries to reach out to me, I know how hard it is to get a job in this field. Yeah. I try my best to be able to give them the answers or answer the questions if they have any. I do like if I get asked to speak to students. That's something I also really like to do because I think also in this field, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot since I started. So I think people also need to know the reality when you get into it. But I also feel like you never stop growing. So I still reach out to the people that helped me to get advice too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's you are now in a class with Filipino American journalists that they're in my Rolodex, right?
A lot.
In my mind, I think of you now, Denise Didor. She does health stories on ABC and our local affiliate. Cher Calvin on KTL Lay. Mike's cousin, is it your cousin? Jane Monreal.
She moved to Denver a long time
She moved to Denver, so she works out there. But do you all is there
y'all know each other?
Is there
We're all friends.
Is there a Fil-Am sorority sisterhood of journalists that happen amongst?
I think and you can look at it, I guess, pros and cons. So it's great that it is a small community, so we kind of all, the names that you mentioned, I've heard them all before, but also I kind of wish there were more. A lot more, actually, so it'd be nice to be able to have so many names that you can't name them all.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's why organizations like the Asian American Journalists Association exists to help minorities, people of color to navigate this field.
You also mentioned Lloyd LaQuesta.
Boyd the
I met him a lot. I remember when I was
OG.
up in the Bay Area, right?
Oh.
I remember, I mean, he won't remember me, but I remember, I think I was either in college or just starting, but I met him at one of those, the AAJA conventions.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a small community. You kind of hear people's names at the same time. That's why you don't want to burn any bridges.
Very true.
Yeah.
Small community.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when you're coming up with like a news segment, or when you're trying to pick news items that are going to be aired, what is the process of doing that?
Well, I wish I could just air whatever I want. That'd be great. But sometimes you get a tip, or if I have a pitch, you bring it to the meeting. So there's a morning meeting. You talk about basically the resources you have. So there's always going to be stories of the day that you have to cover. Whether it be stuff like a fire or the big crime of the day or the big court case. There's always that. So there's usually a reporter that's assigned to that. And then you get enterprise stories as well. So if I have a really good pitch and I want to do it that day, I have to pitch it to my managers, and they basically have to approve it. So, and I'm also kind of in a unique position in that we work on our investigative team. So I have short-term projects, and I also have long-term projects. So there are some stories that my colleagues and I work for months. And so that goes through a little bit of a different process, because we have another manager that we have to pitch it to, and then we have to make sure it's legally sound. So there's a lot of just approving, making sure you get it approved by your news director, your producer. So someone has to say, okay, go ahead, you can do it.
I'm totally having like flashbacks of like the movie Network, like everybody like running around trying to make sure that they get like their story approved and whatnot.
I've never seen that movie. Sorry.
I don't do a lot of running. I walk briskly.
Joe's like, does that have Ron Burgundy? You know?
No, sorry, it has faded away.
I was thinking Social Network. That's why. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a different one. That was a good movie too, though. I like that one.
It's news in a different setting.
I'm curious to know if like you have like a dream interview or a story about something that you've kind of be on your bucket list or something like that. Is there something like that for you? Like, I would love to get a chance to interview this person or get a chance to investigate this.
I've always wanted to interview the Pope.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's always been.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't just. That's always something I wanted to do. I went to the Vatican last year for the first time. Or actually, not last year. A few months ago. Yeah, in August. So I just went to the Vatican. Yeah, I visited my first time in Europe, and so I was, standing there inside the Vatican, and I'm like, where is he? I'm wondering, gosh, I'd love to interview him. Yeah, is he gonna pop out? And so he would probably be one person I wanted to interview.
That is a good answer.
Yeah, I've always wanted to interview the Pope. I mean, and world leaders. I've always wanted to interview our presidents, all of them.
Oh,
We'll keep that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Past and present.
Heck, I want to interview our president too.
Yeah,
Unless you're Jim Acosta.
Yeah, that one's making the rounds.
So yeah, the Pope's gonna be on TFAL next month. Right?
I'll be there.
Si Tito Popoy, right? He's going to be here next month.
Did that land? That landed. All right, high five.
Yay!
Pope, definitely number one.
I was waiting. I was like, how is this going to work? How? Okay.
I'm already married to a living dad joke. I don't need to hear anymore. Like,
Hey.
I have another kind of technical question because the green screen.
Oh yeah, I'm on that every day.
Yeah, so
or not every day, every weekend.
Used to. It's kind of weird when people look out. I'm like, the green screen, because you said you do the weather also. Right?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Ryan wants tips. He wants to know how to point and not blend
It's just
in.
so funny to me.
It's. I know if you see me, it's like, what is she pointing at?
No,
But
and you can't wear green, right? Otherwise you
no,
look
you
invisible.
can't wear green. Yeah, so which I like wearing green, but I have to limit the amount of green dresses. So I wear the green when I'm not on the green screen. But yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to. I remember when I started, years and years ago, my first time on the green screen, you're going to point at a city, and you're it's not there. It's a little further south. So
it's just the funniest thing to me, like the green screen stuff that when you watch news reporters do the green screen. Also, like the the things that sometimes come out of there and everything. So I appreciate the funniness of broadcast journalism.
Yeah, you should come by, and then you
I would
can
love to.
practice with your right arm, your left arm.
Did you have to kind of take meteorology classes or anything like that?
No, so I actually kind of just fell into weather. So weather is one of the, I guess, multiple things that I do. So I just do that on the weekend mornings. I don't have a meteorology degree. I do have a couple of my colleagues that, did that, and they're great. They work the Monday through Friday shift, and I work the weekend morning shift, which I actually really like. So I think, so I don't really have plans to pursue meteorology. I do like it. I have such a weird hybrid position. No one's ever had my position. I actually really like the investigative part as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's. I think if I were to go back to school. Would I go back to school? Would you go back to school?
I don't know.
Yeah, if I'd go back to school, I don't know.
I mean, if you went for meteorology, you could go to CSUN and learn under the great Dallas Raines because he teaches
there?
meteorology.
Oh, I
at
didn't know he
CSUN.
teaches that.
Yeah. I love him and his tan. I mean, I can't.
We're also in San Diego, so it's like it's going to be perfect weather today.
We do have microclimates for sure. Yeah. So it's cooler in the mountains sometimes.
Yeah.
And we do get the 4 days of rain a year.
You get a marine layer? Do you get a marine layer?
We didn't have a marine layer this morning. Nice and clear.
Today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a pitch. If you ever do
listen.
investigative reporting and you need someone to go taste food for you or investigate,
Should I call you?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm here to help. Is basically what I want.
Just
to
give
say.
them the tips that are like, this restaurant poisons people.
Are you going to start with the taco shops? And,
You point me anywhere. We'll investigate.
all right,
We'll
writing your name and number down. I got it.
He's like, is
Send
that
you
really?
undercover.
I'd be like, is this really a bee? Let me try it.
B as in very good.
So, do you have any tips for anybody who wants to break into broadcast journalism?
I think it's definitely the first one is if you do want to get into news, you should like news. You should like learning about what's going on around you, whether it's local or national, international. I listen to a lot of news radio and read a lot just to make sure I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think, make sure that you have the interest there. There's sometimes you hear that, people want to be on TV. Well, that maybe acting might be better.
Yeah.
For sure, because especially now with the way broadcast journalism is, you're doing several different jobs, especially when you start.
Yeah.
So make sure you get into it, I think, for the right reasons, and find a mentor, because I don't think anyone can do it alone, or any industry. So find someone that you look up to or someone that you can ask advice from. So I think those are probably the two things I would mention off the bat. And realize you're not going to start and be rich.
Right.
Remember that for sure.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you were on live?
Yes.
Yeah?
I do.
How was that?
I messed up. I remember, and it was in El Centro, California. It was a story about a sheriff's car. I don't even remember the exact details, but it was a sheriff's car. I had a photographer. We did whatever the story was, and I was live in our little bureau. So we had kind of a office room almost like this that we could feed in live from. And so they tossed to me for whatever I was going to say, and I think I got through the first line, and then I must have blacked out. And I finished. I had a sentence. I said my sentence. I don't know if it made sense. So I'm just thankful there was no YouTube back then.
Oh, I know.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially
We're so
especially
lucky
now.
that we didn't have social media.
I am so grateful that stuff that didn't exist when I start. Oh, all my bloopers would be online. But I remember I was so nervous. Oh, that one's not online.
She goes, I've searched.
But there's so many newscaster bloopers that's online, right?
Yeah, and it kind of sucks if you think about it, because you have a newscaster doing this day in and out and day in.
Yeah.
And then of course the one time they mess up,
and then it goes
of course
viral.
It was on the internet.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just the day and age that we live in.
It's like we're all human, so it's I think we kind of expect our journalists or our broadcast journalism to be some sort of perfect, right? But people make mistakes all the time.
Oh
so.
yeah.
I have another kind of question about the news. So like you say you do morning weekends, right?
I do. Yeah, do weekend mornings and then days. I guess our day shift during the week.
Has the culture of the news changed? I noticed that like the morning shows that that I used to watch. I grew up watching the news before I would go to school.
Yeah,
and it became more of like a kind of a little more entertaining and almost more relaxed kind of I don't know, kind of atmosphere as opposed to like, let's just go to the news and then,
Oh, in the morning.
in the mornings, right? Is that the same for you, or if you experience?
yeah. I think it really depends on what station you watch. I think the morning does lend itself to be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
If you think about it, most morning newscasts are a couple hours long.
Yeah.
So I think it lends itself to be a little bit more relaxed. Some stations are more relaxed than others.
Yeah.
And I think the way news has changed is that it's a lot more, in my opinion, fast paced because you're connected to everything. If something happens, in the Philippines, we'll know about it here. So at least with our station, we try to be on top of breaking news. So I think that's also changed too since I started, just because now everything's at your fingertips.
Yeah, totally. Any last questions? No. Where can people find you? If they want to reach out to you, 10 News. Yeah. What if they want to reach out to you? If they want to ask you questions about being a mentor? And
Do you have a Twitter, IG?
Do you have a Twitter?
Yeah. Instagram is my name, Melissa Mesiha. Let's spell that because it's spelled wrong all the time. MELISSAMECIJA. And then, Facebook. I'm sure if you type in my name,
it'll come up.
Yeah, I think because I have one for work, and then I have a different one. So I come up in some capacity.
Yeah.
And then Instagram, I have Twitter. Right now, it's 10 News Mesiha.
There
So
you
I
go.
use all of those in some capacity.
I still don't know how to tweet.
Don't worry. You don't need to. Well, thank you very much and I'm glad we are your first podcast.
Yes.
I know. I have to put this on Instagram
Yes,
or
please
Twitter or
do.
Facebook.
Yes.
I
Oh
know
my
this
gosh,
one.
this is awesome. Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
being
thank
here.
you,
Yeah,
thank
no, I think
you.
it's
Do you ever have
great.
a last tagline that you always do during your newscasts?
Oh, like a back to you and wink and
Something like that.
flick my nose or something.
Your ear, like
Oh, I wish I did. It's
we're
just
gonna
more
create
boring.
one.
You should do one.
What would it be?
Oh gosh,
help
maybe I do
you.
a little dance.
Yeah.
Like a shimmy.
shimmy off the green screen. Oh,
That's awesome.
if I could, that'd be great. I don't know if I'd have a job the next day though if I started doing that, but
It's
that'd
like
be
sway balance off camera.
with like the candle.
That's how Joe would. That's Joe's sign off like this.
I'd love that.
Pandango sa ilaw. Yes.
Maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll try to sneak it in tomorrow.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh wait, can you sign us off? Like you, maybe you do it in your news voice, like
Reporting
you listen-
live.
or this Filipino. You just listen to this Filipino American Live.
And you just listened to This Filipino American Life,
Yeah.
reporting at the University of San Diego on Saturday afternoon. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. That was cool. This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.